everyone. Oh, that was a bit of a freeze. I've been drinking, okay? We're not talking about that anymore because now I'm drinking tea. The Lord's urine. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's coffee. All right. This is a video that I started and then forgot I started because I drank a lot the first time I did it. So my nose itches and my apologies. This is Unbiased History of Rome, Part 3, the Roman Republic. These are short, 3 and 4. It's like 5 and then 6 minutes. I'm just going to do them both together, and we're just going to enjoy. I need to turn on the closed captions. He talks fast, and let's go.
Welcome back, plebs. I'm glad to say that we'll finally talk about the Res Publica, more specifically of the two great heroes of the early Republic. You know, just in case you need proof the great man history is correct. John Great. It was 509 BC and a map of the world looked like this. Then we have the Mediterranean and then Italy. At the heart of Latium we have Rome. Now the Res Publica. Okay, the Republic. The center of the civilized and now democratic world. The further away you got from it, the shittier you got. Should be intuitive by now. I could go on and on over how the Republic worked. It's a work of art. But here's the summary. The man voted, women, kids, immigrants and slaves didn't. A man, the richer you were, the stronger your vote. The cursus honorum went from quaestors, aediles, praetors, and consuls. Censors also existed, tribunes as well, and the Pontifex Maximus had the best name. Historia Civilis covers it all. Here we will focus not on the offices, but the enemies of the Republic. They fit into two groups. In war times, they were the barbarians, ancient enemies of civilization, rape, kill, destroy, we know them well by now. In peacetime, however, they were the plebs, Rome's lazy masses, always bitching at the patricians for the pettiest of reasons. It wasn't enough that Publius and the others had freedom from the Tarquins. Barely a decade later, they were already committing mass treason, fucking off to the Sacred Mountain, refusing to enlist for Rome's defense. To appease those traitors, the patricians began to gradually grant the plebs more and more of a political voice. It would eventually destroy the Republic, but hey, what did you expect with plebs in charge? Despite these concessions, the plebs just kept bitching for more and more, neither satisfied or grateful. A patrician named Caeso had just about enough of it. As a descendant of the Albans Tullus had brought into Rome from Alba Longa, Caeso actively participated in not letting yet another city be ruined. His actions triggered the revolt in the Capitoline Hill, which killed the consul of the year, Publicola, that is Publicola's son. Such was the regard plebs held for Roman heroes. In his place, the Senate elected Caeso's father as suffect consul, Lucius Quintus Cincinnatus. I could go on forever about this man, but his story speaks for itself. As consul, Cincinnatus refused to give a single inch to the plebeian demands, ending his consulship and retiring to his small farm. The plebs, of course, refused to shut their mouths, abusing their newly acquired political powers to falsely frame Caeso with murder charges, whom exiled himself out of pure disgust. A common practice, as we'll see. And so the plebs went after his father, fining Cincinnatus for all the money he had, forcing him to live in a tiny little patch of dirt, which he did, with no complaints. Meanwhile, the barbarous Aequis tried to retake Tusculum.
Side note, in case anyone was sitting around going, I wonder if Cincinnatus was important in any other realm. George Washington, did I just butcher his name? I haven't been drinking that much. I just had like 4 or 5 beers. George Washington idolized him in that aspect of somebody who took power and then gave it away. And so they had the Club of Cincinnatus, the Society of Cincinnatus, something like that. Anyways, from Cincinnatus to Washington, it was the longest span. It was 2,000 years plus of someone before someone who had power willingly gave it up, which Cincinnatus did, and then Washington did, and it was just a shock. Cincinnatus, very important to that aspect of George Washington's life, that story of, why Washington did it. He wanted to be another Cincinnatus.
From Rome, encircling the small consular armies sent to fight them. In such times of need, the Senate would temporarily elect dictators to solve the crisis. Elected as such, Cincinnatus accepted his duty, bore his toga, kissed his wife, went to Rome, drafted the plebs, crushed Rome's enemies, renounced the dictatorship and went back to his farm, all in 2 weeks. Pretty based, if I might say, but it doesn't end there. Decades later, a wannabe tyrant began bribing the plebs for supporting his claim to be king. Also a common practice, which we will definitely see more of. To stop him, the Senate elected Cincinnatus dictator, again, now 80 fucking years old, field. He accepted, bore his toga, kissed his wife, went to Rome, drafted the plebs, crushed Rome's enemies, renouncing the dictatorship and went back to his farm. But this time it took 3 weeks. He wasn't in his prime anymore. Few Roman heroes can compare to Cincinnatus in virtue, one of which happened to be born just a few decades later. With yet another pleb revolt crushed, the patricians could resume Rome's mission of spreading civilization, starting with Veii, long since a Roman enemy. To crush them once and for all, command of the Roman legions was granted to the greatest Roman general of the time, Marcus Furius Camillus. Now that's a clan name right there. Leading the war effort, Camillus defeated all of Veii's allies, laying siege to the city for years, breaching it and annihilating the population. Such is the fate reserved for Rome's rivals. It's fitting, then, that the victorious Roman soldiers received their first salary that day, Veii del Unbiased. Rome was now the undisputed leader of Latium, having subdued the entire Latin League years back, but defeating Veii posed the question of what to do with the land and loot. Camillus refused to let the plebs take the hard-won earnings, much less allow them to infest Veii. Instead, he gifted much of the treasures and lands as tribute to the gods. A wise choice, not that religious duty was something the plebs respected, once more abusing their power to lay false charges on Camillus, forcing him into exile. In their rage, the gods sought to punish the plebs. Enter the Gauls, easily one of the most vile barbarian hordes, topped only by one. Having destroyed all of Central Europe, they began to invade the Etruscan-held Italy, a bastion of civilization compared to them. Yeah. They raised their way down south, until the leader of the Senone tribe, Brennus, came in contact with Roman ambassadors. They asked him why he was destroying everything, only to accuse the Romans of doing the same. They explained that what they really did was to spread civilization, which triggered Brennus beyond belief, declaring war on them on the spot. The Senate saw this as a chance to finally teach the plebs to fight on their own. The pleb legions met with the Gauls in battle, and broke in seconds, fleeing to Veii, figures. With no army on the field, the patricians could only sigh as Gaul invaded the city, killing, raping, and burning everything on sight. Sounds familiar? It's hard to say who I blame most for this. Thankfully, the core of the city held firm, being manned by the patrician soldiers who stayed behind. Still in exile, Camillus was furious when he learned of the invasion, accepting the election as dictator and raising a new army. Meanwhile, unable to fully take the city, Brennus met with the senators, demanding them to pay him to leave, so that he could have an excuse to claim victory. But when a senator pointed out that the gold balance was rigged, Brennus laughed, saying, "Why rig this?" meaning gives me that. It was then that Camillus arrived, his mere presence making the Gauls shit themselves. Once explained the situation, Camillus laughed, pulling out his massive dick, breaking the scale, and telling the barbarians to fuck off back to their mud huts. Brennus couldn't hold his greed anymore, trying to take the gold and run away, only to hear behind him. No one knows exactly what happened to the Gauls that day, only that they were all gone. It was a victory, but a costly one. The plebs wished to migrate to Veii, but Camillus shunned their laziness. The gods had appointed them with a divine mission, and in Rome was where it was to be undertaken. Personally leading the reconstruction effort, Camillus ensured Rome would not share in Troy's fate, becoming its second founder, and a hero forever. Alright, who's keeping tabs? I think Camillus has the new record. Stick around to see how long it lasts. But of course, the he starts in the audience already know how long it lasts. The next chapter will be all about the Latin and Samnite wars, together with the BTFOing of a certain Greek king.
Okay. We're gonna end that one here. But don't you go away yet, you little nipple ticklers. We're going right into episode 4. Hey, we're back. We never left.
We're talking about evil.
Son of a Pecker.
This man killed 15 people, 8 parts of their body.
Crazy.
Dahmer on... I never heard of that guy. Don't know what he did. Is he leader of a dance group? I have no idea. Okay. Part 5 went off, or Part 3 went awful fast.
You know, whenever I want to feel truly disgusted, I usually take a look at a map of Italy from the 4th century. Gauls to the north, Greeks to the south, and an unholy mix of Etruscans, Umbrians, and Samnites in the middle. Absolutely disgusting. And it is with those fucking Samnites where the wars for Italy's fate would start. They lived in the Apennine Mountains, often raiding the lower plains of Campania and taking cities like Capua. Rome went the extra mile to civilize...
Sorry, I want to throw on caption. Not that I don't understand what he's saying. It's a little difficult at times. I'm sorry. I got soft ears.
Those savages, but couldn't reach the hill tribes. This disparity was the spark of the First Samnite War. Capua couldn't defend itself, so called in Rome, whom easily broke the Samnite siege, placing a garrison of plebeian soldiers in the city. Yeah, you saw it coming. Capua eventually revolted against Rome, and the plebs soldiers took the opportunity to demand higher pay. Now, it wouldn't have been a problem had you not started a Latin rebellion with it. The Romans were forced to stop the war, rushing back home and crushing the Latins near the Vesuvius, using the Samnites as meat shields at that. If you're asking how the Samnites could be dumb enough to accept this, it is because because you haven't met one. With peace restored, the Romans began granting citizenships left and right to the Latins, using them to build colonies further south, even crossing the border with Samnium. They wouldn't stop complaining over it, but the Romans couldn't give two shits about it. And then we have Neapolis, a Greek colony, in case you were wondering why it's such a shit city today. Itching for war, the Samnites placed a garrison in Neapolis, agitating it to attack the Roman colonies, thus starting the Second Samnite War, getting us to the first Roman hero of today, Quintus Fabius Maximus Rullianus. He led his men to victory in Samnium, while Neapolis fell
There's some amazing names.
to Rome, and the consuls led the legions further into enemy territory. Getting so wrecked in the war, the Samnites started pleading for peace, and just before the consuls could respond, they were surrounded, stuck within the Apennine Mountains. The Romans tried carving their way through, but the endless hordes were too much. To save their men's lives, the consuls surrendered. The Samnites relished in their deceitful victory, stripping the Romans of their weapons, walking them under the yoke, and taking their lands. With such a humiliating defeat, it was time for a change. So far, the Romans had used the phalanx, invented by their Trojan ancestors, but it wouldn't do anymore. With the unparalleled intellect of Rome's greatest minds, they substituted the phalanx with the brilliant maniple system. Now, the legions were divided into 120 men-strong maniples, organized sparsely to better navigate rough terrain. In front lay the hastati, the official plebeian meat shields. At the center, the principes, where the experienced patricians put up the real effort, and behind were the veteran triadi, the elite alpha males, used only when truly needed. Now, back in the war, the Romans were attacked by the Etruscans, whom were promptly obliterated by Rullianus. The Samnites in turn were all kicked out of Campania, suing for peace, real this time. Victorious once more, the Romans cemented their victory by building the Appian Way, a road that led to Rome, the first of many. But success does breed jealousy, lots of it, equally shared by the Samnites, Etruscans, Umbrians and Gauls, all uniting in a coalition to make Rome burn again. Camillus might not have been around anymore, but you know who was? Cornelius Scipio Barbatus, the first of many as well. Admittedly, this one didn't do too much. Him and Fulvius did kill some barbarians, but it's the next year's consuls who get the real fame. Back to Flavius Maximus Rullianus and his friend Publius Decius Mus. Rullianus did his specialty, devastating the Etruscans, while Decius did the same with Samnium. The war culminated in the Battle of Sentinum, where Decius and Fabius led the legions against the barbarian coalition. The Romans charged furiously at the enemy, barely using their principes. As the battle raged, the left flank began to waver against the ceaseless Gallic spam of chariots, being too cowardly to actually fight on the field. Seeing the danger, Decius led a suicidal charge against them, sacrificing himself to buy time. Given the opportunity, Fabius sent half of the Triadi to save the left flank, and the other half to rout the Samnites. As they fled the field and the Romans set pursuit, Fabius sent the Triadi to surround the Gauls, slaughtering them all, retribution for the sack of Rome, which will only be fully avenged in the centuries to come. Oh, how I wait. Triumphant a third time, Rome annexed all of central Italy, now the master of the peninsula, with two exceptions, those being the Gauls up north, whose time will come, and the Greeks down south in Magna Graecia. The resulting few years of peace ended soon after, for while Rome was mediating a dispute in a Greek city with their navy, Tarentum completely chimped out and attacked them, over some ancient maritime treaty or some bullshit excuse. Surely, the Greeks in Tarentum weren't stupid enough to deny paying the reparations, right? If you're asking that, it's because you don't know one. Sure enough, war it was, and Tarentum immediately pleaded for help from mainland Greece. Now, I won't waste your time with the utterly insane shit-flinging mess that was Greek politics by then. Safe to say, there was a kingdom called Epirus, led by a Greek king named Pyrrhus. It had 20,000 Greeks, 20 Indian war elephants, and nothing to fucking do. So when he heard Tarentum bitching, off he went to Italy. The tricky thing is that Pyrrhus' army was all equipped with top-notch equipment that they looted from Trojan ruins, managing to put up a fight with Rome at Heraclea. But once they started to lose, off went Pyrrhus, spamming his elephants until forcing a victory. Yeah, victory. The kind where you suffer massive casualties and can only win by spamming living tanks in the battle. Call it a Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhus did live to his Greek genes though, sacking and genociding every shred of civilization he could on his way to Rome. He took one good look at the Servian walls and fucked off to Ascalon, where he met with the Romans again. He was about to lose, but then spammed his elephants and forced a retreat. At least he admitted this time that one more such victory and they were fucked. Maybe that's why he decided to fuck off to Sicily. No one really knows. Killing Greeks was simply much easier, I suppose. He did fight Carthage while over there, but I'll save my hatred towards them for the next video. Once done in Sicily, Pyrrhus decided to sack an Italian temple of Proserpina, Persephone in barbarian speech, sending the ship with the loot home, only for Jupiter to bolt it. Some divine justice at last. After everything that happened, Pyrrhus actually returned to Italy. Maybe he was hoping to force another victory. But his cheese strats were already figured out, getting kicked out back to Greece. Victorious, what, fourth, fifth time? Yeah, the Latin war counts. A fifth time, Rome annexed the Greek lands of Magna Graecia, now bringing civilization to almost all of Italy. Quite a bloody chapter in Roman history, but you've seen nothing yet. For the next time, we will cover the Punic Wars, where Dido's curse goes into full effect. I'll see you then, plebs. Ciao, ciao.
Wow, that was a fast 6 minutes. I didn't talk a whole lot, and I do apologize for that, but it's very fast. He doesn't give you time to breathe. He's just hitting you with shit after shit after shit. You hear a name, and you're like, "Oh, I know that name," and then that person's dead, and he's spanned 150 years, and you're like, "Oh shit, okay, we've moved on." I like it. I'm going to remember to continue to do them, because I did forget. I've been drinking. So I'm going to end this video here. Like and subscribe. If you like and subscribe, I'll send you, a pair of my favorite panties. And we can all act like I didn't just say that. Have a good day.